Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Yeah, rebounding and points in the paint have really been an Achilles heel in this losing streak for Creighton. Remember, this was a team that was ranked 7th, folks, before this 4-game stretch. Now they're out of the top 25. That'll help get them back in. Shireman's hit 2 triples. It's a great set play, but Shireman may have switched his pivot foot. Whoa, put back hammer. Kaluma's now over 20 points. Saunders, good shot fake, good pass, good rejection by King. Numbers, can they take advantage? King on the load. Buckle up. 10-0 run for the Jays. Oh, almost another turnover. It is. 5 seconds. Nimhard. No, in the corner.
Thought our guys showed some grit tonight. We didn't. We won the battle in the paint, which we've been struggling with. We just some of their shooters got loose at inopportune times. Cambridge hit some really tough shots when we got the 10-point lead to get it back in the game, and then unfortunately we were just a little short to finish there at the end.
Tuesday morning on Coffee and Cream, in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, and another loss for Creighton, and that's where we start. Great call by Brandon Gaudin and Nick Baugh, though. I really enjoy Brandon Gaudin.
Yeah, I've worked with him a couple of times. I recently had him on the Big Ten Network for the Buffalo game last year. And the cool thing about BG is he's a good guy, right? Like, you can get a good vibe with people that are just good people. See, he's a good person, and he's very good about sharing. He's clutch.
Does his voice correspond to how he looks?
No, because he's a smaller guy.
Right.
Very slight, but he's got a big boy voice. But man, I like watching those guys because they have a thing, right? Obviously, they're starting to work together more, which is you can get some chemistry going with kind of the whole mixing, but. Man, one of those games, and I heard Coach Max said something interesting, last night about, like, basically letting it go, like cutting it loose. It's hard to believe that a team that's this talented, and this just lets you know it's not always about talent, the whole let it fly thing and being confident. This is a couple of times down the stretch in basketball games now where they haven't looked like a confident team shooting, 1 or 2 possession shots or potentially game-winning shots. They just have looked disjointed offensively, which is kind of atypical of Creighton, you'd think.
Well, Frederick King had a great
fantastic
game. Inserted himself from the get-go, and he really took the spot that was missing against BYU. When I talked about it yesterday, I said Kalkbrenner's presence is key for this team. But nobody stepped up against the Cougars. In this game, Frederick King did a really good job. Now, there are parts of his game that are still underdeveloped, and I would say that's more mobility than anything else. He kind of got caught
very hard with Washington and some of those guys.
Yeah, I was thinking more from the side of, not being balanced on the floor. He got caught behind on a couple of plays, which led to him getting into foul trouble in that basketball game. But for the most part, Frederick King had great vision on the floor. He did well scoring at the basket. I mean, when you put in 8 of 11, you can only be happy with a stat like that. Now, there's some that, of course, the runners that didn't go, but, I mean, it didn't go for Nemhard for most of the game. I mean, he was 1 for 9 from the field, and Farabello didn't shoot the ball well off the bench either. So there are pieces that all of it has to go together for this Creighton team.
Primarily shooting. King helped you out. You wanted points in the paint and presence, and with missing Kalkbrenner. It's like, look, man, at the end of the day, they got to shoot it better. And I still think at the end of the day, they got to shoot it better, right? He shot 36.
Especially inside the 3.
Yeah, and they missed so many chippies early. I felt like mostly in the first half. They shot it a little bit better in the second half. I think they finished 11 of 27 from behind the arc. But the weird thing about this team is I felt like early on they were a little skittish, kind of chasing ghosts a little bit. And ASU speeds you up, man. I mean, they get to double-digit wins. That's a good defensive basketball team because a lot of their guys look alike. They can switch a ton of ball screens. You try to run those little pin-down actions and things like that, and they switch a ton of things. And so I think it's hard. But I felt like for as good a defense as – and Arizona State's a top 5 defensive team, Creighton got good looks.
Plenty of good looks.
At the basket. So I was like, there's some give and take
and
there,
they
right?
sped up Arizona State in the second half to a degree
on that 16-0
that put
run.
them on that 16-0 run.
And it's weird, too, because Arizona State, if you watch them, they shoot a lot of shots you'd want them to shoot. They make a lot of those shots.
Yeah, a lot of,
they take and make a lot of contested shots.
A lot of fades, too.
Yeah.
I was noticing, like, one play off the inbounds, a corner three. That
How about
was a
some
fade.
of the shots Cambridge hit?
Well,
you're like, you're not coaching that.
No, you go off the dribble, and you're at the elbow, and now all of a sudden you're falling toward the wing, and the ball's just splashing through.
Yeah, and he shot it well from behind the arc, too. So that Desmond, I should say, not Devin, but although Devin was one of two. But I think with Cambridge and Horn and those guys, tough shot takers, tough shot makers. And for Creighton, you got out-rebounded, I think, 42-35. So they got out-rebounded by 7. But for them, I still think you only had 8 turnovers and you had 16 assists. So you like the 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. And again, of your 23 made baskets, 16 of them were off assists. But you don't move the ball well enough still. So if it makes any sense to say 16 assisted baskets on 23, makes you thinking, oh, hey, we're sharing the ball. Those misses, they seem like they're not ISO misses, but they're misses with a lot of dribbling. So I'll be curious to see how they are they going to play through the post? Are you going to dump down? Are you going to play 4 out, 1 in? Like, how do you really want to play?
How do you attack this going forward?
How do you get easy baskets? Maybe you just have to make them, because this is not a good shooting basketball team right now.
Right now. They are, but they just aren't.
I mean,
right
are
now.
they, though?
I think so. Early on this season, we saw that.
And
you only have about 11 games to assess?
Yeah, so I don't know if they are. Maybe they will be. Right now, they're not, though. I think we can
100%.
safely say this is not a good shooting basketball team right now.
When they connect on all cylinders, they're a great shooting team. But as are every team.
Yeah, when you're playing good basketball, usually the ball's going in. So I think for Creighton, it's 2 things. This one isn't physical. I said this after maybe the second loss, where I was Texas maybe, where I was kind of wondering about Kaluma shot selection, and we were talking about being distracted and learning to kind of play. And then the very next game is kind of getting Shireman going, and he got it going a little bit last night. But where it doesn't look smooth, it looks disjointed on offense because for whatever the reason, they don't appear to be a confident offensive bunch. I mean, Trey Alexander showed you flashes last night, especially from distance, which is where he did the bulk of his work. So you're thinking, okay, get TA going. But then inexplicably, you got the struggles from Nembhard, who that's an interesting kind of offense. You remember you and I flirted with the idea of maybe sometimes moving him off the ball and letting either Alexander or Shireman create to give him some different looks as opposed to dribbling and having to run the offense that way. They've got some things to figure out, in my opinion, offensively.
After BYU, I really liked the idea of Nembhard running the offense. Mm-hmm. No doubt. I still do.
I mean, he's a natural point, yeah.
But I would even go one step further now and say I need to see more of Nembhard off the dribble because good things happen when he explodes past a defender. Mm-hmm. He's at the top of the key. Whether he's dribbling or he has the ball on his hip, he makes a move. His first step is always faster than his defender. And more oftentimes than not, he ends up with a mismatch.
Yeah.
He has a big body on him, and he can beat him to the rack. Now, where it lacks sometimes is recovery defense gets there, and because of Nembhard's size, it doesn't always win for Creighton.
Team scramble.
But I will tell you this much, he did a really good job in this game facilitating. And I thought that is something that kind of gets overlooked a lot with his game, but he had 9 assists. And, you look at Nembhard and you're like, this is a guy that we need to see score more. But at the same time, you have so many other pieces where he can create more than he can score. When you look for a go-to player now, and I said this yesterday, I was doing a Blue Jay breakdown with Anna, our good friend Anna Bellinghausen.
Anna!
And I said,
What's up, Anna?
Is Anna up right now?
No shot. No shot.
Wow. Okay. I think we should text her and see.
Yeah, I bet she doesn't get up till like 9. But Ryan,
let's hit her up.
you're gonna test it.
Are you up? She's gonna be like, really, bro?
Ryan Nembhard. I'm all over the place now. We went on the Annabelle.
No,
I said for a go-to score.
Yeah.
I said when the game comes down to the wire, I want to see him get to the rack, because I think the best case scenario for Creighton is an offensive board and another point, or Nembhard puts it in, rather than what we see at the end of games where Creighton is just chucking a 3, and it's not a good look.
Yeah. Go all the way back to what we talked about in Texas. At Texas, I was like, they're good up until the game got close. Then the shot select. Do you remember this?
I do.
Then the shot selection was, and they're really in a, where they're really in a bind? Because without question, their best on-the-ball defender is Sharif Mitchell, but he's not helping you out offensively. No. And he had another good look at it last night.
People were questioning his minutes, and he deserves to be in the lineup because of his defensive ability.
But, man, he's got to get downhill or get something
But
easy.
You can't have 50% of the game.
No, it's and it's interesting for me just from knowing him so well. His dad is one of my best friends, right? He's coached both my kids still. He's never really been a guy that's wavered with confidence, but since the groin injury, coming back in the time off, he's just been sped up in his head, kind of rushed.
I think a lot of Creighton players have been the same.
But here's the thing, though. So what I was going to say, and you may be in agreement with this, what ails them is mental. It's not physical.
100%.
I think this is a team that hasn't handled.
How do you unhook the fridge?
Yeah, they just haven't handled what comes with the expectations. And I love. So here's the thing that I love about Mac is he's got a couple of different styles, but all of it is really relational. He's been a lot more laid back and encouraging than I would expect him to be at this particular juncture. But I think it's because he has some new faces in some new places. So he's back to patient teach, coach teach. Mm-hmm. Then he is, all right, hey, listen, fellas, like, get your bunda in gear. Because I'm again, big body language guy. You watch him on the sidelines, and he's almost kind of like just loving them through it, right? Hasn't been real demonstrative and kind of in their cheeks a little bit. He's positive. He's positive. So, and I just wonder where the leadership is going to come from on the floor as, okay, this is the guy. It's on him.
And I don't know who that is yet.
Yeah.
I tried to decide yesterday, but I don't know who that is just yet. I think people wanted it to be Baylor Shireman when he arrived. Just haven't seen that just yet. A lot of people thought Nembhard was going to step up in that type of role this year. Haven't seen a lot of vocal leadership from him or really from anybody on this team. Nobody is saying or demanding the basketball when the time comes for it. Yeah. And at the end of the game, because it was a completely flip-flop look. You look at BYU, they don't call a timeout. Then you look against Arizona State.
I did like what he said, though, about the timeout.
I do, too.
The 12 seconds
100%.
Versus
I was totally with
digits.
him.
I was cool with Mac.
But in that first game against BYU, you got to get rid of Sharif Mitchell. You got to put in a shooter. Now, he did that in game 2.
And got caught.
So, you look at drawing up a play, right? You have a time. You have, 1 minute and a half to draw up a play.
Yeah, it was a full.
And that's what you come up with? Like that's the product that you see on the floor?
And I'll just say this as a coach. It could not have been. Maybe it wasn't executed.
100% it wasn't executed well. But there was just a huge traffic jam. But it wasn't even at the top of the key.
Yeah.
It was up closer to half court than it was the 3-point line.
Yeah.
And so when you inbound the ball and you get it at the red line, and now all of a sudden you have 8 seconds to try to create space when Arizona State, as you talked about, one of the best defensive teams in college basketball, is on you because they know you're going to huck a 3 at this point because you're way out in front, and there's not a lot of movement on the floor to maybe set a screen, open things up, or get a pick and roll. It needs to be executed better, but I don't even know what the play was.
Yeah.
Like, you look at that inbounds play, and you're like, what happened?
That's legit. And what do you find folks think out there? Get at us, 888-638-4876. That's 888-638-4876.
Got that to memory now.
I'm getting better, right? I'm a numbers guy. I just had to commit it to – I just had to give it some effort, right? Just commit it to
You're
effort.
walking around the house at home.
If I could give you Bijan Robinson stats or McCall or somebody.
Which is wild.
I could be able to – well, would you like to know Russell Wilson's efficiency field goal percentage? That's right. You don't do the NBA. Weird things stick out in my head. But fantastic show today, right? You did a good job. Well, you and Shane and I'm on the coattails. Good show today, right? We'll talk a little K-State. We'll preview Nebraska K-State basketball this weekend because the Big Ten has a little bit of a stretch off. We've got we talk K-State football with them winning a Big 12 championship. So we'll talk to Wyatt Thompson. We talked pugilists, the fight game yesterday with Bud Crawford, Teofimo Lopez. What's next with Errol Spence? You can even get into UFC, where I know you like to make yourself
that's
a pretty,
me. That's me.
A pretty.
I have plenty of UFC questions loaded up.
He's
in the vault.
He's a Patty Batty fan.
Patty Batty. I don't even know if I'm a Patty Batty fan. I just like the nickname.
I think you like the haircut.
Yeah, well, he looks like
I'm telling you, that's the guy
that's
that's
like somebody that was in a band over in England playing with Ed Sheeran at some point.
Beck or somebody, right? It's like,
like
I'm a
Beck.
loser, baby. And then you go over there and you say something slick to him, and all of a sudden you're
You get
sleepy.
socked in the mouth.
You wake up like 4 hours later and you're like, man, that dang
No, I'm
haircut.
excited to talk to Iole, though, because if you watched the UFC over the weekend, I mean, there was some controversial judging toward the end, and even Iole.
Listen, they're starting to get a little bit. People have been suspended. Corners have been suspended. We'll ask Kevin because even he at his Twitter game, he was like,
Well, and I watched him
know.
do a little stand-up video afterward, and it was the unpopular opinion, Kevin Iole.
Yeah.
It wasn't the, hey, I agree with the majority.
Yeah.
It was the Kevin we normally get of, hey, I'm taking this from my perspective and other media perspectives, and that did not go the way we thought it was going to go.
No, sir. And we'll talk Creighton with Joel Lorenzi, who is there.
Got to come full circle.
Their beat writer.
to finish.
So we'll talk to him in the 8 o'clock hour. So it's like you're watching last night. By the way, congratulations to your Blues.
Thank you. I didn't wear the hat today because I only wear teams that either like big things come. Like I know they snapped whatever streak they were on with their losing stretch.
Can I have a question though?
Go ahead.
So I get the Mississippi State thing. That was Mike Leach.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the Blues thing. Okay, but why are we rocking the Oakland A's? Is it a Billy Bean? Are you a Moneyball?
I am a Moneyball fan, but this is for Sean Murphy today. Sean Murphy got traded.
Oh, okay. So you're up on it, obviously, because we're up early. Are you like scrolling the news feed and seeing what gear can I wear that goes? Because yesterday it was Mississippi State.
Yep.
That made sense. Mm-hmm. I didn't know if you were going to wear Texas today or what.
Could you imagine?
We'll get to Chris Beard later.
I don't even know if I have any Texas apparel.
You know what I was the most shocked about with Sean Murphy Day? That is, of all the things I thought you were going to say.
It wasn't that.
That's not it. Sean Murphy.
Three-way trade.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So I was all in on Sean Murphy before I found out really what the A's asking price was for him, because the Cardinals, obviously looking for a catcher, ended up signing Contreras instead. But Sean Murphy was rumored to be somebody St. Louis was highly interested in. But, I mean, you look at the haul that Oakland got, and If you go back and go on Twitter, because I'm not a pipeline guy, like I'm really not. I try to be, but there's so many players.
I am a pipeline guy because that was the name of our offensive line in the 90s. So I'm a huge pipeline guy.
Not an MLB pipeline guy.
I'll entertain it.
Correct. Like I'll go in and see like, oh, who's this prospect, who's that prospect. But you look at the names on the list that Oakland got, and none of them are recognizable. Which means if Sean Murphy's asking price was as high as people were talking about, these prospects are the real deal.
Yeah.
And they're expecting 3 out of the 5 at least to pan out.
So let me ask you something before we get it. Well, we should have continued with the hot stove talk because I was all in a couple of days ago talking about potential shortstop trades, moving Gavin Lux and 2 young arms having to get in the Dodgers rotation and Boston Red Sox.
Not wanting Carlos Correa.
Boston inexplicably paying Kenley Jansen $8 million, which for 2 years, no big deal. Did the whole Justin Verlander New York Mets thing last week fly?
It came at me like a jet.
Under the radar?
Nobody really talked about it.
Are we paying attention to the Mets rotation right now?
So they got rid of DeGrom.
Yeah.
And then they just
I don't know if
added,
got rid of is the term.
I don't know, maybe because he played too much.
Yeah. Well, they pulled a old school Dusty Baker, Mark Prior. Maybe they ran DeGrom into the ground with all the arm injuries the last couple of years and running him back out there. But I'm sure we'll get to baseball.
But how about Scherzer and Verlander reunited once again?
And it feels so good. Yeah.
And then who's the third they just got? They just got somebody else.
Well, all they were missing is like Matt Boyd or somebody bringing him over from the old school Tigers. Annabelle Sanchez, another Tiger.
Oh, I'm not talking just Tigers here.
Listen,
they added somebody else. Did they add the Japanese pitcher?
Yeah, Yoshida.
Is that who they got?
Yeah. No, Boston did. I thought you guys were gonna go get Yoshida.
All of them. Kind of.
I know. Wait till we get to Nebraska's recruiting segment later on. We'll be like, hey, is it Senzatella, Cephaluina? Like, what are we talking about? Which IMG team did he have the 7 interceptions for? Was it the top team? Nah, we kid because we care.
We do care.
We do care.
As I look
Good morning, Shane.
Good morning, Shane.
I thought it was Yoshi. Wasn't he from Mario?
Yoshi. Oh, stop.
See.
Hey, it's not easy being green.
See.
Good morning.
The minute we let him get involved, he is it the baby? Is he not the? He was the baby dinosaur, right?
Yoshi?
Yeah, he's the one that popped up out of the egg.
Speaking of eggs, our poll question of today.
Lord have mercy.
How do you like your eggs?
Oh, this is good.
Because Creighton laid an egg. So fitting.
This is good.
A little harsh, but fitting.
This is
scrambled.
I can't wait to hear these. Okay.
Over easy.
Okay.
Hard boiled, or hatched.
Well, man, that's tough. It really is.
Do you know the reference of hatched?
No.
There was a kid at a restaurant. I don't know. This could be fake, but the waitress said, "How do you like your eggs?" And he goes, and he looked at his dad and goes, "Hatched."
Send that to me.
I will.
See if I laugh out loud. I'll let you know if it's real or not.
I thought it was funny. All right, what do you think, though? What do you think
I'm
we're going here?
I'm struggling because I like them all. I'm the king of the hard-boiled eggs and salad. I'll tell you a funny story about when I was at Pisons and Verzal made me like a Cobb salad. And I said, do you have eggs? And he goes, I don't have an oven. I was like, can you put them in a pizza oven? There's a lot to that story, man.
We'll talk recruiting trail and maybe a little bit more of that story next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds.
We are back. Coffee and cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. DB, you using your computer cam on the YouTube?
I don't know.
I think so. You look like you.
How's that?
There you are.
Is that good?
I didn't know if people knew you had a body or not. We saw a neck up. Didn't realize it was just Halloween. Floating head.
Oh, you know what? It's not. It's not an
connecting.
option. Hey, Shane. Can I kick my? He gets so mad. Can I kick myself out of the stream and come back and use the regular cam? I don't know.
I love how he talks and drops to you, but when he has something to say about a cartoon like Mario, he comes right on through.
Shane, is that okay?
No.
Oh, he's killing me now because he's using my own stuff. How do you just have this stuff on deck? Like, that's unbelievable. Stop. Come on, man.
Well, you know what I always say, don't you?
No.
Now, do you tell Simple to put that in?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you can kick yourself out.
Thank you. I'm going to come back in and use a different camera. Glad Sasha isn't here because she sure would be.
Oh, you bounced. You actually
she
did bounce.
She sure would be reprimanding. I'm going to come back, and I want to use my other camera.
People just want to see me.
Well, much better looking.
Hey, speaking of, better looking.
Oh,
because,
Lord.
I like to.
What do we got?
I like
it's
to
not giving me
brag
the
a few
option.
Things.
Would you help me? No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. Go
Maybe
ahead.
during the break.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, so
we're like
when,
having a show.
When I was, how I made fun of you yesterday for Beautiful Day?
Yeah.
Sent Beautiful Day.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the thread for it, and everybody was kind of saying neither. It could go either way, or I guess it's just a neutral scent.
Yeah.
Even though the image, the printed image, plus online, when you look at the scents, like of what it's supposed to smell like, would fall in the female category. You got away with, being okay, rocking Beautiful Day. But then it got me thinking.
I haven't used it yet, though. He literally just told me about this on our last road trip.
But you will end up using it at some point.
I hope so.
So.
Do you want my address so you can send me Christmas gifts?
I know where you live.
Fudge.
If there's TP on your trees tomorrow, it wasn't me.
So I only have like a big pine. I don't have any leaf-bearing trees.
Oh, that's even worse, though.
Is it?
Like it's poking through. That just seems like a recipe for disaster.
Typically it is.
So I thought about it, though, and I'm like, man, I gave DB a hard time, which I don't care about because I'm all about giving DB a hard time.
As are most people.
But what I wanted to add, too, is this, because I'm like, oh, DB can probably get me on this.
What's that?
I got my eyebrows threaded at the mall on Saturday. But that right there, I got to tell you, if anybody out there gets their eyebrows threaded, because I got these big bushy caterpillars underneath my bill here, it is
what is that
the
even?
ladies dig the eyebrows.
Okay, so mine are a mess. And one doesn't grow all the way because I've had stitches there. I may or may not have been socked, which is different than the one that Dumas gave me. How does that feel?
It hurts. It hurts. I used to do it when I was in TV because they wanted you to look, a certain type of way.
Yeah.
So I would get them done for that, but it's because they paid for them. But in this case, I got them done because they were just kind of all over the place.
You're different.
But, dude, they're shaped well.
Mine are.
No joke. 15 minutes after I got them done, I went to Family Fare for some food, and the girl working the counter goes, I got to tell you something like that's weird. And I'm like, go ahead. She's like, your eyebrows are like perfect.
Oh, Lord.
Flawless. I'm like, the ladies dig it. The ladies dig it. So DB can't get after me. The ladies dig it.
By the way, I saw day before yesterday at Family Fare, they have the McDonald's looking hash browns fresh, ready, vacuum sealed with the plastic wrap. So if you're looking for decent hash browns,
those I can't mess up like the pizza dough I messed up over the weekend.
I still think that's the most extraordinary story I've ever heard. And I wish, what I want you, so I put myself out there, right? Because this, even when people call me out, like I'm willing to have the conversation, right? Like I'm having this conversation with this guy asking me about Westside. You have got to tweet out the picture of the finished product of the pizza. Because, and I know pizza's not my thing.
I'll do it now.
Pizza's not my thing. But I told you.
You
because
did.
we live so close to Rotella's. They're great family friends. I said, hey, you could get Rotella's dough.
And I was stoked.
It's $2. It's already done. It's ready to go. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I'm not even I was going to say a dough boy, but that was a Boys in the Hood reference. I'm not even a dough guy. But it's fantastic. So I told you, I said, one ball of dough got 3 pizzas and probably 6 chicken bakes. Okay? 3 pizzas and probably 5 or 6 chicken bakes. I felt like I had you kind of caught up to speed. You used
Covered all your bases.
one ball of dough for one pizza. And you had the audacity to tell me yesterday, the day before,
What'd I tell you?
I can't believe I screwed up the dough. Like, how did you not pay attention?
So, and look, I pride myself on being
Not being a good
decent cook. Yeah, or not being a good listener. On being a good cook, and like I can make really anything. But when I start experimenting with something I haven't done before, like I am really like I have to learn by my failures, and I think a lot of people do. But
yeah.
in this case, I completely missed the mark because I didn't let the dough settle, and
Did you do the flour and the
I did,
roll?
but
So-
I didn't have a rolling pin.
Dude,
So
did you
I started
tweet the
using.
picture out?
I'm about to.
And I'm not inviting people to make fun of you. I just want to know, like, at what point were you eating that pizza and you're like, oh, God, it'd be nice to have some toppings. I feel like I'm eating a lot of bread. Like,
That's what I said. I pulled it out of the oven and I go, Ashley, we're having cheesy breadsticks tonight.
like, what is that? That's like deep. That's like unintended deep dish. That's not even deep dish.
I just tweeted it out.
Yeah, like what are you doing?
I wasn't thinking, Damon.
Were you in a hurry?
No.
It's foolproof. Like once the dough is done, like I watch
Hey.
I watch Verzal and these guys like.
It's a blunder.
So full disclosure, no. At some point we'll get back to sports. We were talking about like him working and staffing, and because I saw a sign at a fast food place that on the drive-through said now hiring 14 and 15-year-olds applicants, da 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 da, and they put it right on the drive-through. And I was like, fudge, and I was talking to Verz because I was just hiding out over there, and he's like, I was like, man, I could do that. Like, once I figure out how to like, I think I said toss dough or I don't know what he says, spin pies or something, because he's that guy that can like throw them up in the air and do all sorts of things. But
I tried to do that, by the way.
But the dough is already done, and I was like, if I could get past that, and he's like, hey, you know what? It'd take you about, I think he said a month, and to learn like the efficiency of the line. He's like, then you'll be good. Like we just can't keep people in. And I think the dough is the hardest part. So I say all that to say, you had the dough done, and you still screwed it up. Like, that makes next to no sense. That's like getting good bacon and you screw up the BLT.
You know where I messed up?
Thinking.
Correct. 100% there. I messed up because I didn't think about the dough rising in the oven. And so when I laid it out on paper.
I don't even know what that is. Like, what is – I got to retweet this. I don't even –
Do you like – so this looked like – have you ever seen Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay?
Dude, that is just –
Have you ever seen –
that is bad.
Have you ever seen Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay?
No, but Micah loves that.
By the way,
he said he's coming on the show.
Is he?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Dude, he's –
I'll talk to him about anything.
careful now. That little dude is nuts.
But, okay, so there was an episode where they were in – oh, gosh, Denver's Best Pizza, I think.
Dude, this is like –
And they called it the thin crust. Yeah, this is what it was. This is what dude called the thin crust, and that's what that pizza reminded me of.
This might be the funniest thing ever. How do you screw this up?
Hit me again while I'm down. Just
But the beautiful thing
thank
about
goodness
that,
we're going to break.
Dude, $2 though.
And that's why I was able to not really beat myself up too bad, because I can go back and get another one for $2.
I don't know why you wouldn't shop there.
I go for all my bread. We're actually making sandwiches for the food pantry tonight.
This? What are the? Oh, good on you.
Yeah, we're going to RCIA and making sandwiches.
And we're doing Christmas carols for West Side Football. We're going to the.
Dude, I love this.
Hey, is it not cheap though?
It is. It's super cheap.
Do Rotellas.
Go to Rotellas. Hey, coming up next, we are talking to Wyatt Thompson. That's next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds.
Sends a man in motion. Here's the handoff to Deuce, and he angles to the left and has an opening. He's at the 40. He's at the 30. He's at the 25 to the 20. He is at the 10. He will house it. Touchdown. Touchdown, Kansas State. The Deuce is loose in the title game. Wildcats score with 11:27 to go in the game. Good snap and placement. Kick on the way. It is up. And good! It's good! The Wildcats are champions of the Big 12 in 2022. They stun 12-0 TCU and win it in overtime 31-28.
We are back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, and on the line right now is Wyatt Thompson, the voice of the K-State Wildcats, and you just heard him on the call. Wyatt, thanks so much for joining us. We hope you're having a great day. How are you?
Well, I am having a great day. I appreciate being on with you guys. Thanks for the opportunity. Looking forward to talk to you about some K-State stuff here this morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, DB and I sat back yesterday, as we do at least once or twice or maybe 20 times a day. And thought about the losses K-State had this year and still couldn't believe this team was a 3-loss team. Now, Adrian Martinez has been a big reason for that, even when he hasn't been on the football field. What can you say about his impact on the program and especially on Will Howard? And do you think K-State would be in the position they're in today to play for the Sugar Bowl if it weren't for bringing a guy like him in?
I don't think there's any question that he was one of the difference-making guys. He really was the story, honestly, going all the way back to spring ball, where he really didn't do much participation because he was, coming back from surgery. But he fit in here so well, so quickly. Obviously, he was voted a captain. I think everybody recognized that he was a good man. He was going to do things the right way and be accountable. And when you do that, I think you can gain some traction pretty quickly. I think he fit into what this team was right away because he wasn't the only senior leader that they counted on this year. This has been a veteran football team for sure. But, yeah, I think his help along with Colin Klein with bringing Will Howard along ended up being a very big and special part of this season, guys. And again, I've said it before, you couldn't ask for much more than what Adrian gave K-State. Aside from maybe being healthy there, he was awesome.
So, well, let me ask you something, because let me go big picture, macro versus micro, because I played against and during the Bill Snyder era at Nebraska, and that was this stretch where it was like this unbelievable turnaround for Kansas State football. I coach at the high school level, so I've sent players to North Dakota State when Coach Kleiman was there, and they're now actively recruiting my kiddo, so I get a feel for Connor Riley and those guys who I've known for half my life, and I understand what they're about as people. Is it too early to compare, contrast, to come alongside and talk about what Coach Kleiman and this staff is doing in Manhattan versus the prowess and the reverence that folks have for the legend that started this whole thing in Bill Snyder?
You know what? I do a lot of interviews. It's the first time I've been asked a question quite like that. And I think it's very, and I appreciate the question a lot, honestly, because at the end of the day, I am so impressed with Coach Kleiman
He's
and
unbelievable.
his staff and what they've done in the short time here. I love the fact that he came in and embraced what Snyder had done and yet had so much confidence in himself and his ways and the way he wanted to do this and the people he surrounded himself with and the way he's just grinded through this. If you really study it fairly closely, I think it would be fair to say every recruiting class from the beginning till now, including this next class, a little bit better than the one previous. And he's also helped K-State a lot in the transfer portal with young people that he has known and or had connections with. He had, I think, where he kind of moved over to the right of center, if you will, was last December, a year ago, after a loss to Texas and prior to the bowl game against LSU, when he had to fire his offensive coordinator, Courtney Messingham, which had to be, keep in mind now, these guys have been friends since they were 7 or 8 years old. That had to be the hardest thing he's ever done in his life. But I think he felt like it was something that would make the program better. He elevated Colin Klein, and the rest is history. They beat LSU in that bowl game. They've done what they've done this year and continue to basically move forward in recruiting and interest in the program. So, comparing anybody to Bill Snyder is really hard. And I'm just being honest about that because what he did here is remarkable and probably, I don't think I'm overstating this at all. I think it's one of the 3 or 4 best jobs in the history of coaching in this country at the college football level. But Chris Kleiman belongs too. He's pretty darn good.
So when you talk about the kind of what he's about and just kind of knowing him, his due diligence and his commitment to doing it a certain kind of way, how did that play over like real time with the fan base? Did they understand? It's easy to look back now and say, hey, we got our guy. But what was it like real time as you're kind of going through it?
Well, it's a good question, too, because like everybody, you have your ups and downs, right? I mean, there were times when I remember early you lose pardon me, you lose a home game to kind of one of those mid-major types, and then you go to Oklahoma and win. Mm-hmm. This year, we lose at home to Tulane and go to Oklahoma and win. So there have been, a few bumps in the road, but I think what people have recognized as we've gone forward here is that and you can't do this, but if you take the COVID year out, and we were hit pretty hard here, I think he's been hugely consistent in how he goes about it. This league is hard. Everybody knows it. And yet they have competed. I mean, even this team, we had 6 players on the preseason All Big 12 team. That was more than anybody, and we're still picked 6th by the coaches. I mean, think about that a second. Yeah. And some of those guys were difference-making kind of guys, whether it's Felix Anudike-Uzama or Deuce Vaughn or whoever it might be. They've just steadily gotten better, frankly.
We're speaking with Cat Voice Wyatt on Twitter. That's Wyatt Thompson. He is the voice of K-State. And Wyatt, Nebraska and K-State will be meeting this coming weekend in the basketball arena. And Nebraska's defense has been a focal point to this team's success so far this year. How is K-State preparing to face off against a Huskers group like this that has really played some really good basketball as of late?
Well, K-State's 9-1, as you probably know, and I think they've played pretty good basketball to start. And they've kind of hung their hat on defense, too. So I don't know that they'll be in shock when they meet Nebraska, but I'm with you. I think it is a much better team than 6-5 and 0-2 would indicate. I think they are talented. If you catch them on a day where they're shooting the ball pretty well, you might be in trouble. I had a chance to watch a good portion of the Purdue game. I thought they really competed. They've got different and probably I would say more veteran kind of pieces now with Gary, the kid from Alabama, and the Vanderbilt kid from SMU, and the Griesel, of course. So I think they're a little more veteran. That helps them, and they do guard. There's no doubt about that. I think if K-State has, an issue at this particular point, they also go through stretches where they don't necessarily play great offense, now they have been a little bit better lately against weaker competition, but they struggled at Butler. Butler got after them early. So I'm anxious to get to Kansas City and see what this one brings, because I'm very much expecting a tight, tense game against this group.
Wyatt, I know everybody sings your athletic director's praises, and Gene does a fantastic job. And I hear Coach Kleiman reference him all the time. What did he see in Coach Tang, do you think, in this first year where you're kind of looking around about where this program should be in Weber? It's like he won enough to keep the natives kind of, for lack of a better term, okay. But then it was like, what's next? Where it just wasn't quite good enough. What do you think Taylor's casting for a vision with Coach Tang?
Well, I think it would be fair to say that Coach Tang was probably far ahead of more than ready to be a head coach. He spent 19 years at Baylor. They had huge success there. From where they started to where they are now, it's really a pretty astronomical difference. They've even changed structurally as they've moved on, too. If you remember back in the earlier days when they started having success, they had a lot of guys that could shoot the heck out of it, and they would sit there in a zone, and not now. They get after you and play really good defense now, and I think that's what intrigued the K-State people about Coach Tang, because of his ability to recruit, his ability to survive and move through change, and just the consistency in which they won. And when you meet Coach Tang, I think it's very quick to recognize that this is a very unique guy. He's a very Christian-based man who believes, I'll almost be repetitive here on what I said about Kleiman. He believes in who he is and what he stands for and what he does. and we haven't seen many hiccups yet. Now, again, we haven't played in the league yet, and we all know how Big 12 basketball is. But he's recruited well. I'll remind your fans that when he got here, there were only 2 returners from a year ago. So in essence, you've got 13 new faces, and they've just continued to grind and get better. And it starts with like what Nebraska is with the defense, and they guard. There's no doubt, and they're lengthy and more athletic than they've been in a while. So that gives them a chance.
Wyatt Thompson, we appreciate your
Fantastic. Thank
time
you,
today.
Wyatt.
Thanks so much, and we hope to talk again soon.
You got it, guys. Good talking to you.
Thank you.
Hey, coming up next, we have more commits to talk about under the Matt Rule umbrella. That's next on Coffee and Cream here on Hail Varsity Radio.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Well, I'm getting hammered on social media, courtesy of DB, Andrew Rogers here. It's Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Pizza making ability not there. Sports talk there.
The funny thing, though, is like you were just defiant. Like I told you exactly what to do. And I think you
but
got
don't act like I'm like a rebel, like I'm going against
and you got
your will
now
and
listen,
wishes.
I'm not coaching those insecurities. That's on you. If you
They aren't insecurities.
If you feel like you're a rebel, I'm not owning that. That's on you. All I said was
I'm going to be like Shannon Sharp in this instance and really sit back and just take it in.
Can I just say something about that real quick? You know what made me mad about retweeting that? Everybody
thought you watched the show.
Well, that number one, but I don't care if you don't like the people. Like, why do you feel that's important to tell me?
It was the snippet of dialogue that you were addressing.
That's it. Right, like
there was one comment that I laughed out loud, and Ashley can attest to it because I just started dying at home because you just only wrote "cool" at the back end of somebody's statement towards you, and I lost it.
It's this,
in my
it's
apartment.
that, it's this, it's that. Skip Shan. I'm like, listen, you guys are missing the point. But I understand it's Twitter. And so the immediacy to tell me how you feel, even though it's not, doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about. I simply was talking about a real situation evolving on air, which I've had because somebody takes something and makes it personal, and you feel like you're in a better relationship with them than that. That was the gist of what I was saying. Shannon was hurt. Whether you like Shannon Sharp, it's overly produced or it's made for TV, because he felt like Skip should have had his back. Skip didn't have his back.
Skip came out guns a-blazing.
Yeah, and Skip doubled down. And listen, I'm not a Bayless guy, but again, see, none of that is really what I'm talking about. He went all in on a guy that is notorious for getting emotional about getting his family out of that one-room house. You saw the house in which Shannon Sharp lived in before he went to Savannah State, right? And what it meant to play sports to him, because that's all he's had. Because he said, I wasn't very smart. He's told this story 1,000 times, and Skip poo-pooed it. And I was just like, that's all. This is real. And, do we have breaking news?
Breaking news. Unfortunately, Mississippi State lost a member of their family. Coach Mike Leach has passed away. Such an icon for the sport. I mean, he was a fan favorite of a lot of people. And I don't know if anybody saw the reports that came out yesterday regarding the heart attack that he had. And then was it like seizures started to follow? And, I mean, wow.
How about he was just doing an interview last week with the little raspy cough because he was a little under the weather. I mean, it's just the kind of person he was. I mean, Mike Leach was he was a man of the people. Never turned down an interview. Man, that is.
I don't even want to say our hearts go out to his family, the Mississippi State community, and all those that are affected by this. But man, that's a stinger.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Kind of makes what we were talking about a little obsolete.
Yeah, can we go to the phone? We have Michigan
call.
Lance on line one, and as we kind of bounce around the 8 o'clock hour to kick things off, you're talking Jays basketball, right, Lance?
Yeah, a little Jays basketball, a little college football coaching carousel going on. How you guys doing this morning?
Good, how are you?
I'm sure you'll dabble in high school as well.
A little bit. Hey, man. Creighton basketball. DB, you kind of talked about it, I think like last week or something, but about the type of players that Coach McDermott's coaching, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I
I used the Brady Hoke reference.
Oh.
You know,
okay.
Brady Hoke spent a long time not coaching 4- and 5-star guys, and he didn't enjoy doing it. And I wasn't saying that Coach Mack didn't enjoy doing it. It's just different when you coach guys that have other aspirations other than just playing college basketball.
Right. Or other skills, or a certain level of skill set that you don't have to teach, that you normally coach.
Yeah.
And so, along with that, what I was going to say is expectations. You know, Creighton has never really come in with the expectations they had this year. Everybody's known them to be a good team and, you know what I mean, a good program. But now they came in with expectations, and how can you deal with that? How do you coach that? How do the players react to that? So they're in a new space and a new era of where they're going, especially with the Big East. Like, I knew going into the Big East, like, when are they going to get to this point where expectations are going to be there to do what you're supposed to do and be great, you know, more often than not. Not just be good, but be great more often than not. But the thing about college basketball that helps them, you know, is like college basketball really isn't – nobody's that great of a team.
It's a crazy season, isn't it? Like, who's good?
Yeah. But if you look at the last couple years, men's college basketball really hasn't been that good. Like, it just – a lot of these teams and players, it's like, man, like, do you guys work on your skills in the offseason? It's a lot of just, I don't know, I guess more of the players are going to the G League and straight to the league after 1 year. I don't know, man. It doesn't look the same, but the 90s and the early 2000s and the 80s, like, man, it's some bad basketball to play.
Well, you just make sure you tune in to Midland and Omaha today at noon, and you'll see some good basketball because I'm for the hometown team. I'm teasing.
Oh, well, yeah, most definitely. At noon?
Yeah, it's kids get out of school day or something like that. Like, bring the kids to school.
Is that really what it is? Like the
No,
kids game?
that's
Really?
what I. Yeah, like, why not? Like,
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah,
you taking your kids out?
and Midland does a really good job recruiting, and you know, Coach Crutch and Coach Crandall and those guys they're about it. 3-8, they get one at the home. Let's go.
Hey, I love it, man. Hey, how about you? I don't know. Did you talk about Deion Sanders?
Oh yeah,
getting a head coach.
Yeah, we talked about Deion quite a bit, and Deion.
The dude got a head coach, like, to be an assistant. You know how hard that is to do?
Yes. Yes.
I'm like,
remember the conversation that I had with Larry Martin to take that job at North. I get it. Yes. It's not easy.
Man.
Yeah.
Right. Well, but yeah, man, that's wild, man. That's like, this dude got a head coach to come over, like, that's wild. And
how
so,
about how he told the
thing
free world nobody in recruiting is safe?
Right. Hey,
And then he flips Dylan Edwards, who Nebraska wanted all the way till the end before he went to Notre Dame.
Man.
And Deion's like, nah.
He flipped Dylan Edwards in the blink of an eye.
Well, because he's known him for so long, too. Like, he used to coach him in youth in the 7-on-7 when he was in Dallas.
See, people forget that Deion has a lot of connect. Look, man.
Listen, he offered Proctor, who was Iowa's top recruit, within like 10 minutes of getting that job. And Proctor tweets it out. And Proctor was there on the same weekend that we were visiting. And I'm like, how do they even make offensive linemen that look like this in high school? He looked like Wirfs. He looked like Wirfs already. I mean, he's the real deal. A guy gets a job in 10 minutes. He's offering, and a guy tweets it out. It's like,
hey, Deion's no Matt Rule, though.
Hey, I'm in Rule I trust, though.
In Rule I trust.
But hold on a second now. Deion got cars out there recruiting weekends. I'm like, this dude got $100,000 cars on recruiting weekends out there. Like, hey, man, like, the NIL and Deion Sanders are going to be really good together.
So, and, you know, he got the co-DC from Bama, who has had some up and down stints, but he has gone to the Nick Saban School of Coaching Rehab, which some coaches seem to go to, and it works. He's got a head coach that's an OC. Do you like this staff so far?
Yeah, I would say yes, because I trust him. Not that I really like, oh, that guy is great or this guy or that. Like, I trust what Deion Sanders is putting together. I mean, there's just certain people that know how to do things. Like, he doesn't have to. He's hiring people that are great at what they do, where he doesn't have to do it, where he can go be fine, because that's what the world wants. That's what the kids want. So he can focus on that. Now he's going to do the coaching part too. He's going to make sure his coaches are well prepared, they do their job, and they're on point. But then he can go do the other things to bring people into Colorado. Colorado, people have been talking about Colorado for 2 weeks straight. Nobody has talked for Colorado since '95. Like, that's crazy. And when you go to a Matt Rule, and everybody kept telling me about fit at Nebraska. Well, we don't know if Deion fits and this person fits. Like, I'm looking like Matt Rule is from the Big 12. That's where in the AAC. Like, that's not a Midwestern fit or route. And then he brings in a guy, which I'm not shocked about, from Syracuse that runs a 3-3-5. Now, I don't care about the 3-down linemen. Like, that doesn't matter to me. Now, what matters to me is the sticks in the box, in the 3-3 part, to where in the Big 10, it's not the Pac-12 or the Big 12.
Yeah,
but
Lance, you know this, and I'm an odd front guy. You can get to 8 in the box any way you want to.
No, but DB, I'm with you. But are you going to be able to get those players at that whatever you call it?
That's what it is. That's what
right.
it is about the body type, right? It's like,
right.
Okay, are you? But I'll say this,
Go
like
ahead.
all of a sudden, and I'll just use him for an example because he's mine. All of a sudden, like Caleb will look at that spot like a nickel will, and he says, and he's like, "Oh man,
interesting."
Right. Yeah, I like. You know what I mean? So it just depends.
Oh, I'm with you.
There are a lot of those tweener types.
No, but DB, I'm with you. But let me tell you this though: do those guys like coming downhill against Wisconsin?
If that's what
State?
Wisconsin does. If that's what Wisconsin does.
Right. But we do know that's what Penn State, Michigan, Ohio kind of. We don't know what they're kind of. They're kind of
spread, power. Michigan,
Illinois,
power
like,
spread. I mean,
right. Week in and week out. You know what I'm saying? Like.
But here's the deal. Here's the deal, though.
In the Big 12.
Here's the deal, though, Lance. These teams are, if it's Illinois, with the exception of Minnesota, and their RPO game is even good. Most of these teams run power and counter and QB lead out of spread. So you have to be able to line up in it and be able to handle RPO and perimeter quick game and then still be able to stop the run. So it's not so much about whether it's a 4-3 or a 3-3. It's the body types in committing to it, because these teams run outside of Wisconsin. They all run the ball out of spread formations.
Right, but who's committed to that? Like you said, it's still a power run game at the end of the day. And man, in Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan, Penn State, hey man, they got some big bodies. Do you want to be coming up? The handful that do, man, it's tough week in and week out.
It just seems like the best outside guys play in Madison, and they play an odd front, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but you know me. The odd front, the 3-down lineman doesn't matter to me, like you said, because you can get that. It's the next level that I'm worried about, like you said, with those tweener types, and we'll see, man, in the Big Ten and how it goes, but. The Big Ten is still a little bit more smash mouth than the Big 12 and Pac-12.
No, I agree. I'm with you. But UCLA and USC are coming. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin has a new OC from North Carolina. Illinois is gap scheme and RPO. Who knows what happens with Iowa and Minnesota? I mean,
man, you know Iowa isn't gonna. They're still I
don't know. I don't know. It got dicey for Coach Ferentz this year. I don't know, man. That fan base isn't as passive as we think, man. They want to win.
But, DB, they were still one win away from the championship.
No, I understand.
They have to hang on. They're going to lean on that to say, we don't have to change that much. Why would we change? We're one win away. Like, I'm with you, DB. I gotta see it before I believe Iowa's changing some things.
All right, my guy, be good.
You've been telling me for years about that fan base. But
I have because I don't know.
I haven't seen it.
I feel like I know him a little bit now.
I'll tell you what, though. I mean, in regards to your last point there, and Lance's too, when he said, they were still 1 win away, which I totally get. Why change? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you do change it, maybe you're in a more comfortable position as the Big Ten evolves. Who knows, though?
Hey, real quick, did you want to say something about the high school teams?
He's
Is he gone?
He's
okay.
gone.
All right. Well, bye, Lance.
See ya. No, let's continue the conversation, though, because he took it down a good path when he was talking about Dion and then the recruiting
Coach
he's
Rule.
done.
Yeah.
Let's go to Coach Rule and the coaching staff and talk about how they haven't skipped a beat.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, so this is what I'm about. You're going to hear this all. Like, this is going to be a theme with me. I don't care so much about who's or who isn't recruiting a guy. I care about fit, right? Is that somebody that I could see when they say, hey, I'm recruiting that guy, that I could see that they go in that system? Because if that's the case, I'm just telling you, here's a dirty little secret. Coaches couldn't care less what the media or fan base thinks about star rankings. They couldn't.
Well, and
what coaches look at is I'm supremely confident. I'm an alpha by nature. I think that I can get that guy better. He fits what I'm looking for. And that's all they worry about.
The stars don't always matter. And it's been proven.
No, they actually do in championships, but not always. Because the championship teams win 4 and 5
Yes,
stars. They have a lot of 5-star guys.
Yes, but in regards to this type of recruiting, they don't always matter. I mean, you look at Hassan Reddick, who was probably Matt Rule's most notable recruit to go to the NFL. And he wasn't ranked at all coming out of high school, kind of like Quentin Ives. Unranked and the most recent, or one of the most recent football recruits at Nebraska. Multi-sport athlete, speedy, athletic, can absolutely move out of the backfield, but also no stars. Mm-hmm. But they look at him as a development project, a way that other people don't look at him. And we talked about already once on the show, betting on themselves. This is a kid that's going to bet on himself because nobody else did. And I think Nebraska does a good job of pinpointing who those kids are. And then you look at, the 3-star DB, who I'm going to avoid saying his last name, but I'll say his first name, Sincere, from IMG Academy, announced his commitment to Nebraska even without seeing Lincoln. I mean, that's just, to me, that's
a Barthel deal.
Well, but still, the work that this recruiting group has done in order to bring guys in that, for one, had no stars, for another, that hadn't even been to Lincoln. I mean, they're doing more for this program in a short amount of time than fans have seen in a while.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. And, Michigan Lance is talking about Big 12 versus Big 10 and things like that. And, with Tyquan Thornton and Kalen Barnes and guys like that Coach Rule recruited, and then got drafted. I don't think that he's all of a sudden going to forget what it takes to win football games, because he talks about turnovers and the offensive and defensive line. So I don't think he's sacrificed anything. Now we'll see what happens from his development. But what you're not hearing from him is, well, such and such, and I'm not – listen, man, I don't need a pound of flesh, and I don't speak down on 98% of the people, so I'm not about to start bashing Coach Frost. But, when he says things like, we hope the Big Ten will have to adjust to us. So when it comes to trust and comparing the two, and I know the fan base feels a little like toast, right? Burnt. I trusted you. It was supposed to. Pay attention to the approach, not necessarily kind of the end product right now, because it's still early. And I mean end product by the guys that are saying yes. Pay attention to the approach. This is what we need to be successful. This is what I've done to be successful. This is what I'm going to try to do. It's different than saying, like that would be like me coming here and saying, hey, what I've done everywhere else is going to work here. Just trust me. You wouldn't want to work with me.
Right.
Right? Because this is this is different. Everything that we're doing is different. The clocks, the schedule, what market, like our producers, the production. We have like things that I've never even seen before. So you would trust me more if I said, hey, these few things I've done that have been successful, I'll try to bring those with me. Hey. But let me at least see. By the way, we got to get him, Shane, Dirk Chatelain.
And they're hot.
Exactly. A couple things I want to ask him. He doesn't have to do the weekly thing. I talk to Shane like we're not really talking.
Right.
No, but it's part of who we are. We just talk to one another. We're family.
Right.
Like, just because we feel, I always say this, just because something has been a certain way doesn't mean it always will be. And I think
change is good.
And it can be. But we do ourselves a disservice, Drew Down, when we like box our thoughts and we stop wanting to learn. Because if that's the case, why do we even get out of bed in the morning? No, I'm serious. Like, if you're not trying to really be better and you're just kind of doing it because you've done it, like, how many of us really do that? And if you do, does it say anything about your character? But yet when we assess,
you're closed-minded.
But when we assess somebody else, like, we put those values on them. We don't even put that on ourselves. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't.
It's a great point.
I don't understand why we think like that. But again, that's just me.
Building on the line.
It's totally on you, Doc.
Building on the line has been a point of emphasis, too, when we got done talking about the 3-3-5 as well with Michigan Lance. Another recruit that Nebraska snagged was JUCO edge Kai Wallen, 3-star junior college prospect, and he had offers from everywhere. Essentially, a lot on the West Coast, but he even had offers from one Big Ten school, which was Indiana. He had an offer from KU. He's now a part of a class that includes Dylan Rogers and Maverick Noonan, which, I mean, when you're building this defensively, it's shaping up pretty well.
He goes back and he gets Jamari Butler, who I think will be integral. He's looking at guys, and I've told this story, so I'm not going to rehash it, when – you know, all those guys that were in the room on junior day where he's like forecasting who they look like, who they could be like, what he wants them to be like, and how it goes to getting stops. You know, it's and we're so dismissive of like this conference or that conference, and we forgot that over the last 3 years, Okie State got really good playing good defense, and we think it's all flash and dash. K-State played pretty good defense. Iowa State played pretty good defense. And you're seeing some guys, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but Bijan Robinson is going to the NFL as probably the top back taken. Breece Hall was pretty good. Deuce Vaughn is going to the league. When we look at these conferences and we say, well, this conference doesn't do this, man, be careful, because they have good players too. And when you're looking at, like, the Deuce Vaughns and the Blake Corums and the Bijan Robinsons and the Braylon Allens, are we so sure we want to be the folks that thumb our nose up at how other people run the football? Those guys got good players too.
Patience is something we talked about with Sam McEwen yesterday with this coaching staff. That's what I will re-emphasize today on this show.
Yeah.
Watch what they do. Be okay with change. I know what you said, like, change isn't always good, but
it can be, though, right?
I would say more oftentimes than not, either change is good or you settle on it fine.
Or
right?
You're still going to continue to grow.
Right. Kevin Iole's next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hale Varsity Radio.
Renaissance punch out, but it's starting to come down now. It's running a little bit. Crawford's taking it up the gears. Nice.
Oh! What a right hand from Terence Crawford! Flat on his back. He knocked him out. The King is still on top of his game.
Back with you on Hale Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. It's Coffee and Cream in the morning alongside Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, and on the phone, Kevin Iole. Kevin Iole is boxing and MMA columnist for Yahoo Sports. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me again.
Hey, thank you. And, I want to start right back on Saturday night. Some controversial endings to the co-main and main event in the Octagon. Can you break down those two fights for me a little bit more? I read your article, but how bad do you think the judges missed on the main card result?
Well, I think the co-main event was really bad. I mean, Patty Pimblett got a 29-28 unanimous decision victory. Most people had Jared Gordon winning. I think there was a poll of media taken where there was like 40 people and 39 had Jared Gordon. I had Jared Gordon 30-27. I gave all 3 rounds to Jared Gordon. It was a good fight. It was a fun fight. It wasn't a great fight, but it was a good fight. It was the first fight on the card, by the way, that had gone to a decision. Everything else was a submission or a knockout. And then all of a sudden it goes like that, where they got it wrong. And they favored the bigger name and the up-and-coming guy, and that was bad. The main event, I think I disagree with the scoring. As I watched it again, the first round I think is the swing round there.
Yeah.
Pretty clear that Blachowicz wins rounds 2 and 3. Pretty obvious that rounds 4 and 5 go to Magomed Ankalaev. 2 judges scored the last round at 10-8 for Ankalaev. The first round is a swing round. I thought that Ankalaev won that, but it could have gone either way. But the co-main event was just terrible. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah, Kevin, so that may answer my question, but when the boss, the guru, and Dana White, and I know he was kind of being facetious or even rhetorical when he says, what can I say? It was terrible. When the visionary, when the guy says that, is that what makes this thing work? Is it reverberates down to the fighters, or does he still look or come across like a guy that is separate from the product?
Well, I think in that case, Dana has had a history of speaking out on judging.
Yeah.
He's criticized judging very significantly over the years. So I think that it was very much on brand for him to do what he did. And so nobody was surprised. And I think people look at him as a guy, most people would say in that case he's speaking truth to power.
Kevin Iole on the phone. He is boxing MMA columnist for Yahoo Sports. You can give him a follow at Kevin I on Twitter, and that's I in his last name, the letter, not the spelling of EYE. But Kevin, this weekend is the final fight night of the year. We have Cannonier, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, and Strickland is the main, and both are looking to end their year on a positive note. What have you liked about their training going into this, and do you think with both coming off a loss, we'll see some firepower here?
Yeah, I think this should be a really good fight. Cannonier lost to Israel Adesanya in his last fight, and he was strangely passive in that fight. He was trying to get Adesanya to lead for some reason. Adesanya is a counter-striker. Tried to get him to lead, and Adesanya just was patient and waited for him. And Cannonier did very little. Adesanya won the fight. I expect to see a different Cannonier in this fight. And Sean Strickland is a guy, he hits a lot and he gets hit a lot. So it's one of those things where normally he's the harder puncher, but I don't know that he's going to be the harder puncher against Jared Cannonier. I like Cannonier to win this fight, but it's a coin toss on who takes it. But I think Cannonier has beaten a little bit better competition, and his only losses, except for his first UFC loss, everything else, Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya, guys like that, the guys at the very top of the division.
Kevin, before we move to boxing real quick with Crawford and Lopez, among many others, with what's going on with Adesanya coming off the loss, we know about Kamaru Usman coming off the loss. The UFC seems to not waver when their top guys suffer losses just because fights happen so quickly and you can make big fights. But does it change the way that you view either fighter going forward with regards to the state of the UFC's attraction and star power?
Not really. I mean, I think when you look at both of those fighters in their situations, Usman had won how many fights in a row? A big, long winning streak.
And dominating that one.
And he's winning that fight by a very wide margin until the final 7 seconds of the fight, right? And then he gets kicked in the head and gets knocked out. And one of the things that, I learned when I first started watching MMA was that, anybody can get hit at any time because of all the different ways to win or lose. And so Usman, is not that surprising. Now, when you go to the Adesanya fight, though, he had already lost to Pereira twice. And so, he fought a totally different fight this time, or not, maybe I shouldn't say a totally different fight. He fought a lot better fight this time, where he really stayed in control, fought within his game plan, didn't really make a mistake, and still got caught. I happen to think that Adesanya will eventually beat Alex Pereira. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I had him winning that fight going into the last round. I had it 3-1. Pereira needed a knockout. His corner, Glover Teixeira, who's going to be fighting for the light heavyweight title, said you need a knockout, and he went out there and did it. I think that's one where you credit Alex Pereira. You don't criticize Adesanya on that one.
Meanwhile, in Omaha, there was a local boxing match. I shouldn't say boxing match. There was a local favorite taking place in the ring, and that's Terence Bud Crawford, as he remained one of boxing's pound-for-pound best with his knockout but TKO performance at CHI. What did you take from that fight in regards to Crawford's ability to adjust mid-fight and really retain the WBO welterweight title?
Yeah, nothing new. It was like Crawford was brilliant. He's always been brilliant. He's been the best fighter in the world for a while. And I don't think that anything was proven in that fight. Just the fact that fight happened was so disappointing because, we wanted to see the Errol Spence fight. And everything is there. And I'm not blaming anybody individually, but everybody collectively deserves a ton of blame for the fact that David Avanesian was in the ring against Terence Crawford and not Errol Spence. It was laughable, and it shows what the major problem with boxing is. I love boxing. I have loved boxing all my life, but it gets harder and harder to defend when you see this kind of thing happen.
How much does he need representation? That's my guy, so I should just ask him. But I thought his pitch at the end was interesting, as you're listening in the crowd, where he says, "Hey, listen, I'm a free agent. Let's make something happen." How much do you think he's hurt by or needing different representation at the table when it comes to Spence?
Yeah, I think that's certainly true. That would make a big difference. I love Terence Crawford as a fighter. I think he is a fantastic fighter. And contrary to a lot of my peers, I don't think there's any doubt about A, him being number one, or B, about him being sincere, wanting to fight Errol Spence. I think the problem is, he doesn't know how to negotiate. Now, one of the things that he did great was, he got himself overpaid throughout almost all his career up to this point. He made $6 million for fighting Sean Porter, and just about anybody else would have, in his boat would have made maybe $1 million or $2 million. And so I guess, I look bad saying what I just said, but I think when you get to that big fight where you're trying to, come to the table, and he was saying that they only wanted to pay him a percentage and not give him any guarantee. That fight is not going to do as good on pay-per-view as people think. That's the sad part about this. We have two great fighters, both in the top 5 pay-per-view, and they're not going to do the big $1 million+ pay-per-view buy that it really should do because of how good these two fighters are. And that's what when I say about representation, where I think it's a mistake. I think in a big fight like that, that's what happened. But Terence had made so much money in some of these middling fights that he had taken before, that now all of a sudden, it's a lot harder to get the big fight made because the money's not there to pay him what he really wants.
Quickly, Kevin, we're up against it, about a minute. Level of concern for Teofimo Lopez as he himself kind of questions whether he's still got it.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I thought he looked bad against Sandor Martin, didn't look great against Pedro Campa. Of course, the fight before that, he lost to Kambosos. A lot of concern on his part. He needs to change in the corner, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Can you get away from family, Kevin?
That's always so hard, I'll tell you. That's the toughest part.
Kevin Iole, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, guys.
Toss him a follow at Kevin I on
He's
Twitter.
fantastic.
He's a very good guest. Coming up next, we'll come full circle and chat with our guy, Joel Lorenzi. He's been in Vegas covering the Jays, and we'll get his thoughts on the 5-game losing stretch next on Coffee and Cream, powered by Currency.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you on Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. As we wrap this thing up, we'll be talking to Joel Lorenzi, but he's navigating through TSA right now, or so I've been told. And, you know, DB, it kind of had me thinking during the break, what is the worst airport that you've ever traveled?
LaGuardia or O'Hare.
So two of the biggest ones.
Listen. No. There's a third, and it's a monster, too.
Is it Denver?
Atlanta.
Atlanta is not fun.
OMGZ off the heezy. So bad. But those are the three.
O'Hare's probably mine.
Yeah,
I don't travel by plane all too much.
So for some reason, I went through New York to get to Pittsburgh in 05. Or whenever Nebraska played out there, 04, 05, the field was trash. I wanted to go see Heinz Field, but anyway, went through New York. Don't do that. Atlanta.
Neither airport.
Atlanta multiple times. The thing about Atlanta is it understaffed or are there just 2 trillion people in there? And I'm like people phobic. It's not claustrophobic. It's just that's like way too many people for your boy. Now the problem with O'Hare is not the fact that it's crowded. It's something's always wrong with the flight.
So I have a list pulled up here, top 10 worst airports in America.
Okay.
Do you think you can give me the top 5?
I think I gave you 3.
Okay, LaGuardia is 2 on the list.
Yep.
O'Hare is 4 on the list.
Okay.
And
Atlanta has to be 1.
No.
Let's go Minneapolis.
Nope. This is
It's not John Wayne. What's the other one in Orange County?
LAX.
Yeah.
That's 3.
Okay.
So you have 2, 3, and 4. You're missing 5 and 1. 5 up in the Northeast, and both of them are up in the Northeast.
Boston.
No, but good guess though.
What are they?
Newark is number 1. And my dad actually travels into Newark all the time. I should ask him how bad that is, if that's number 1 on this list. And Philadelphia.
You know what? I haven't flown into Philadelphia.
Which makes sense why you wouldn't know. I mean, the only ones I know about are O'Hare. Well, D.C. is one.
There's a couple that scare me. Flown into Miami.
I have to do that this April. Is that bad? And it's a connecting flight too, and I think I only have an hour.
It was a connector for me too because I was going to Atlanta.
You booking it?
And we've flown there obviously for bowl games, but that one is interesting. Dallas and Houston are both a little sneaky disturbing. So be careful there, too. Although Dallas has Papados, so you can't go wrong.
Chris P. on YouTube
you ever
says
eaten at Papados?
Newark is the worst.
Is he?
Yeah.
Papados.
Is he? No, it is.
No, I'm sure Chris is great.
Atlanta is easy. O'Hare is okay, is what he says.
Easy?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I need to travel with him.
Well, if you travel a lot, it is easy. But when you go to an airport, let's just say less than 3 times in your life.
Yeah.
Because I like I said, I don't travel by plane all too much. Plus, if I am, it's Omaha to St. Louis direct.
You should ask CP. Like, is he are you a TSA pre-check guy?
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna pay $83, $73.
I should.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my pre-check.
But
game
again,
right.
like I said,
10
I don't know if I'd get my money's worth.
Bro, are you serious?
So traveling 1 time is money's worth?
Oh yeah, you don't. If you traveled more, definitely.
Right, and
if you travel 3 times a year, it's worth it.
So, but even if I flew from Omaha to St. Louis, like those TSA lines aren't long.
Yeah.
Like St. Louis is a bigger airport, but it's not huge by any means. And plus, they have the separate terminals of one that's Southwest only, which is what flies direct into Omaha. So if I go there, the line is never very long.
It's a lot of people in Philadelphia.
It takes like 15 minutes max to get through.
Yeah, Atlanta was not good.
Right. Well, and I've been in a line that's taken over an hour. It's like a Six Flags ride.
Man down.
You know, I've never been to Six Flags.
No way?
No.
What about Disney?
Yep, been to both.
Are you a Flash Pass guy?
Yes.
I am too. When it comes to those resorts,
but
I am.
It's kind of, for me, you talk about bang for the buck. Where were you when I needed fiscal savvy? I'm not a roller coaster guy. So
No
a lot
way.
of those, yeah, I know.
Like, why? You get nervous?
But why would you want to be?
Why not?
They don't feel good.
They're thrilling.
They're not.
So if you're not,
they're shaky. They feel unsafe, and that adds to the excitement.
No.
If you're not a roller coaster guy, why would you want to even want to go?
So
to
that's
any of those places?
kind of the thing.
Why would you want to go to Six Flags? Why would you want to go to Disneyland?
He's been to Disney.
But
There's so much more to do at Disney.
That is correct.
Than there is at Six Flags.
That's correct.
Why would you want to go to Adventureland in Des Moines? I mean,
I went there for the kids. We played. We played in a tournament and.
Well, and plus, when you have kids and you take them and they like those amusement parks, you can stand by and watch. You don't have to go on the ride with them.
Completely agree. I did go to the water park, though.
Shane, are you tall enough to go on rides?
Ooh. I think you only have to be 48 inches. He's close. No, I'm serious.
Yeah, I know it's 48 inches.
Because 48 inches is 4 foot. So you're 60. You're 61 inches, right?
You know what I did last time I was there?
You stood on your tippy toes?
No.
I open up some salsa, explodes all over my chest.
Do you wear heels?
So we're not going to get Joel Lorenzi because he's at TSA?
He's in TSA?
Yeah, so trying to get him for tomorrow.
TSA is just – I got to tell you, it's stressful to go through because even when you have nothing on your person, like I am still like shaky as my arms are going up.
Hey, so you know with me, I'm irrationally competitive, right? I think I'm on 17 or 18 straight without a ding from the screening.
I think you're spot on.
I know how to dress. And the only reason I got the whole wand thing beeping at me was I did not take my chain off. But I don't, I didn't wear a belt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I know to take things out of my pockets.
Something that always happens to me is I wear, there's shorts that have like the liners in them.
Yeah.
And on those shorts, there's always zipper pockets, and those zippers always ding me every single time.
It's tougher. I've been in the courthouse a couple times in the last handful of times in the last 3 or 4 years.
Hopefully all good things.
Those are tough. And it makes sense, right? I mean, it's the courthouse. But
right.
Like those, I'm a little more nervous.
I remember going to the courthouse covering like even city council things, back in Sioux City. Same thing. You had to put your equipment through the whole thing. They check things out. And
guys are a lot more intimidating at the courthouse, but significantly nicer than TSA. TSA, I try to make small talk, man. It's like, but they're having none of it. They ain't got time. Too many busy shenanigans going on.
They're just not the most personable either.
I would not mind that job, though. Because I wouldn't have to think a ton, and
all you have to do is take ID, run it through your system, make sure things check out.
But I think I may be over.
Well, and it used to be
overly exposed to people.
It used to be TSA really was just kind of like a bouncer at a nightclub, and you just walked right on through. And nowadays, because of unfortunate events, that's the world we live in, so they have to be serious. Yeah. They have to be critical like that.
I'll take serious.
Hey, I know we aren't going to get to Joel, but let's talk a little Creighton one more time here because Big East play starts up on Friday
Marquette.
At Marquette, and you like Marquette this year.
I do like Marquette. I think I don't know how good they're going to be, but I think that's a dangerous team that's on the come. And
it's on the road.
I know.
And that's even tougher for this team because it just seems like they've been on the road so much this year and so early on.
That's why you're kind of glad. They'll get back this morning, obviously, and they'll be in their bed 3 days. So you get tonight, Wednesday, Thursday. You won't get Thursday.
They played one home game since November 17th.
And then they're on the road. But then they'll hit a slew of home games, which I think will do them some good. But I know people wondered about the travel schedule and early on the season play, and I know everybody pointed to Arkansas, and that would be Texas. Those would be the barometers, and it's turned out to be a lot tougher than that as you're on a 5-game skid. And in the take it or leave it yesterday, I left it. I did not think that they would beat Arizona State yesterday, primarily because emotionally I didn't think there's enough recovery time. What ails them is 6 inches. It's not between the ears. It's not the lift getting off the ground or the 6 inches in a pocket pass or anything like that. It's all in here in terms of how they want to play. I just didn't think there was enough time to reset.
Based on how Nebraska played against Purdue, do you think Purdue should be the number 1 team in the nation right now?
I think that's more about Nebraska than it was Purdue. I look at Purdue's offensive efficiency numbers and what they've done in terms of strength of schedule and quality of opponents, and they're the last team standing. Nobody else appears to want to be number 1.
UConn's been playing some really nice basketball.
I told you at the beginning of the season, that team scares me because they're deep and they get after it. UConn is for real. And how about the Hurleys? What are they, 20-1? 21-1? One's 11-0 and one's 10-0. So that's 21-1.
Right.
Bobby and Danny have 1 loss between the two.
Mm-hmm.
I know you had that in your preseason 2023 basketball starters. The Hurleys would be really, really good in coaching basketball.
That was actually my lock this year.
Your buddy that wins all the bets, the anytime bets. Hey, Hurley's get to 20 wins before they get to 2 losses. I'm going to get that on FanDuel.
Yeah, and he probably put it down. It wouldn't have shocked me if he laid that.
And lo and behold, they're 21-1. He's a winner chicken dinner.
Hey, before we go, I want to get back to the poll question and get to the results because I know you were interested. How do you like your eggs, DB?
What
do you think won?
I think scrambled won it safe.
Scramble, 45.2% of the votes. Over easy, 49.5% of the votes.
Right there.
Took it home.
And right there, Shane, hey, listen, if you need tickets, Red Zone's got you covered. They buy or sell all types of tickets. Morgan Waller, NCAA volleyball, Creighton basketball, Mannheim Steamroller, UNO hockey, NFL too. A ton of different price points. Red Zone Tickets is located right here in Omaha. Reliable local source with A+ better business rating. Visit RedZoneTickets.com. That's RedZoneTickets.com today.
We'll see you tomorrow.